Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back. So today we're going to be reviewing the Taranis X9d Plus 2019 Access version. I was finally able to get it to work, and I'm going to show you every single step of how to get it to work, from downloading the software to flashing it to everything you need to know in order for you to get this to work with D8. You'll need a multi-protocol module, TBS Crossfire, you'll need a TBS Crossfire module like this one here, but they all work just fine. But the thing that I don't like about this is the out-of-the-box experience is absolute bad. I'm trying to use better words now. It's really terrible. So, especially for a newcomer. I mean, I had a comment the other day saying, because of how these are coming, it almost made them quit completely into trying to get into FPV drones. And that's not something we want. That's hurting the market, and at the same time hurting themselves from the veterans in the market. So I don't see a good stance on this. I understand you want to make profits, but it's fine, make profits. I have no problem in that. Just keep your products great and you'll keep making profits. If people are copying you, then people are always going to copy you no matter what the hell you do. So you're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops when you purchase this. It's not that many, but it's still not as nice as it used to be before, where you just boot it up and do everything you want on it. But now you're going to have to do some flashing. But luckily, it's pretty simple. So for the things you're going to need, obviously, you need the controller. We're going to take a closer look at it on the bench in a bit once we're done with all the software stuff. You're going to need an SD card in order for you to install the TBS Crossfire stuff. You're also going to need to make sure the battery is not plugged in when we're setting up the firmware now. I don't know why, but maybe that's how they have it programmed. But I don't really think I think they could have came up with another way, to be honest. That's what I'm trying to say. So make sure the battery is unplugged when you plug this guy in, so we're able to flash this guy. All right, so the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need the software. We're going to need something called the nightly build. Now, if you don't know what a nightly build is, a nightly build is basically like an experimental version of the software. And there's some risks to take with that as well. This is what I'm talking about. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops. For example, here's my X9d Lite, which I highly recommend actually, and this is my main driver. It also has a nightly build on it, but I lucked out with mine because I have no bugs, no issues on that. However, you do run the risk of having a bug on a nightly build. Now, I'm not going to recommend one for you just yet. We're going to just do the one that I'm going to do here, show you how to do it. That's going to come back to you because I haven't had much time to put into this yet, but I'll have an update video on that current nightly build that I've had, and I'll also make sure I save it because those change every other couple days and they just get erased like all the older ones. So I'll save those, keep those on the side just in case they're gone and we know that they're stable. So yeah, that's something we're going to do. So again, the first thing we're going to need to plug in the USB. Luckily it does come with USB, but it does not come with a battery. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to buy yourself a battery. Not any battery will do. It doesn't even come with a tray to install batteries, which is kind of a let down as well. I mean, just something, you really have to go find a special battery that's going to fit here. But there's a lot of batteries for the older version, so it should work just fine. So it does take 2S batteries, so keep that in mind if you're using lithium ion. So right now we're going to go ahead and plug in the USB here. And we need to check our device manager to make sure everything is correct. So if you have an issue, you know exactly where you are. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we go into the device manager. Now, I usually just, click on that, put D, and I get my device manager here. So once you're in device manager, you want to find the universal serial bus devices and controller. Click both of them. We should find STM32 bootloader. Now, if you don't find this, you need to download the drivers. And I'll have the link to the drivers down below. It'll say drivers, and then you could download those and you should be able to get that working after that. So the first step, you need to make sure this is actually showing up. STM32 bootloader in your device manager, or everything else is not going to work after this step. So make sure you get that first. So the next thing we're going to need is the OpenTX 2.3 Nightly's build. And I'll have this link down below. What you want to do is you want to go to the Windows installer if you're using the Windows here. So we're going to click that and you'll get introduced into a page like this. And then you can download the latest one, or I'm going to use 95 for this one right now. So as you can tell, it's made September 24th. This was the latest build right now. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. And you should see it start downloading it. As you can see, it's down here. So once it finishes downloading, I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. And then you'll get this message right here, run anyway. And we should start next, and just let that finish. Okay, next, and then finish also. And then we should have the program open up. Now this is where it might lose a lot of people, especially if you're using the older one. So the first thing we want to do, it's going to ask you, do you want the newest ones? No, we don't want. No, I don't want. No, I don't want anything. So that's what we want to do first. No, 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 no. So the next thing you want to do is you want to create a profile to tell the software which FrSky transmitter you have. So we go to settings, radio profiles, and we're going to say add radio profile. Boom, nice. Now here, as you can tell, it says FrSky Taranis X9d Plus, but that is wrong. That will not work. You will need the FrSky Taranis X9d Plus 2019, such a long ass name, but that's the one you're gonna want. Now, if you take a closer look, you don't see the multi-protocol modules, you don't see the TBS Crossfire, and that's totally fine. It's going to be there hopefully on this version also, but we're gonna check that as well. But it should be there. So you can choose the things you want. We'll just say the Lua. If you're EU, this is where you'd want to go ahead and set it up as Europe. So this would set your transmitter to bind to European stuff. Right now we're just going to keep it as is here. English language, and this is very important here. So this is mode 2. So if you're mode 2, if you're a different mode, you could change it instead of having to change it after every model. And here, this is also important too if you wanted a different channel order, because now in the newer beta flights, when you go to the receivers tab, it's default to, I think, AETR, and FrSky, usually some of them are AETR now, but you would have to change in beta flight the channel map to Spectrum if you're going to keep it RETA here. So keep that in mind. Not a lot of people know that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Next, we want to go here, make sure we have it on nightly builds unstable right there. And then that should be it. So we're going to click OK here. And then we're going to go ahead and say download. So we're going to say download the firmware and release no, we don't want that one. And then here we're just going to save it. So we're going to save and just allow it to download. Now, if it takes a really long time to download, then it's not going to work. You're going to have to change some of the settings, and I'll explain what I mean in a bit, because these are pre-compiled firmwares. So for example, this one's not going to work. So I'm just going to close this one. We're going to have to go back to our settings right here, settings this time. So we're in the same exact one, and we're just going to remove some of these here. Maybe the Lua and Flex R9M, you probably want that. So we're going to try it like this now. And then we're going to say download firmware. No. Okay. We're going to see if this one's available. If it keeps loading like this, then it'll never download. So don't think it's just you have a slow connection or something. Okay, so again, we don't have this one. So this is kind of the things that these are the hoops that you're going to have to jump through in order for it to work. So we're going to try with Lua now. So actually we need the Lua. Make sure you keep the Lua, because that's what will run Crossfire for you if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to remove that now. I'll just say no heli, and I'll say this one here. Sometimes they've only built special ones, so we just have to keep fucking with this until it works. No. Save. There we go. You see that? So you want to choose the Lua No Heli SQT5 font, and that's it. That should work. So I'm going to show you the settings again one more time. This is an absolute nightmare if you don't know what the hell you're doing, especially if you're new. This is just an absolute not good thing here. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have No Heli selected, SQT5 font, and Lua. So these are the things we need. The SQT5 font, No Heli, Lua, you'll get that firmware. You can play around with this until you get one that downloads, but keep in mind, you need the Lua. You need the Lua. Okay, so we have the firmware downloaded now. And just in case, you need to take note of its name as well. So we're just going to download firmware again. We're going to say no to this. And here it is. You could just take note of this. I'm going to call it just AA right now. Saved. We're just going to download another one. We're just going to call it AA. Okay, so that's good in that perspective. All right, so the next step, you want to make sure you have no battery plugged in. That's very important. And we want to install our USB, and we should have a green light. You don't need to press any buttons. That's it. That's all you need to do here. And like I showed you in the beginning of the video, make sure it shows up in your device manager. So let's go back into the software here. So now to update, what you need to find is this one right here. And if you keep the mouse over each one of these, it'll tell you. It says write firmware to radio. So we're going to send that firmware. Here we're going to load. Usually it picks the last one you downloaded automatically, but anyways, just keep note where you actually set this up, and then choose it. So we saved the aa.bin, that's what we called it. Leave everything here default, except this check hardware compatibility. That sometimes will make you think you installed the firmware, but you actually didn't. So no, I'm just gonna remove that there. It's not recommended, but for here, I have to do it for some reason. So remove that, and then write to TX, and then we start getting a screen that looks like this here. So obviously if you get the screen, that means it's working. So it does take some time, so we're just gonna skip over this. So far so good. Coffee, Lavazza. There's still some wall space for you. All right, so we got flashing done here. Warning, file has no DFE suffix, file downloaded successfully. Forget this. So we should be good in that perspective. Now, the way to know if it actually worked or if it didn't is if you plug in the battery and it doesn't boot. I mean, it's just easy as that. So let's go ahead and see if it works. So now I'm gonna plug in a 2S LiPo here. That doesn't fit. Just keep that hanging. We're gonna boot this guy just to make sure, because we're still not done yet.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Looks good. You're not gonna have sounds, by the way, until we finish the SD card, which is next. You'll start getting this error here. We're gonna take a closer look under the table over there. Right now, this camera's crap for this. So yeah, everything is booting up just fine now. And before we get into the menu and I show you the multi-protocol module and stuff, we still have to do one more thing. So we're gonna need the SD card. So there's an SD card that fits there, and again, I'll show you on the table later. Right there, that's where I put it. You have to bring your own. This wasn't provided with it, so just buy a little nice cheap 2 gig one. You're not gonna need a super expensive one. So you can get, you know, anything for that. You can get anything for that to fit right there. All right, so right now I'm debating whether I should just use the SD card itself or actually show you how to do it while the SD card is inside. Actually, I'm gonna format this real quick, and then I'm gonna show you how to actually do it if you didn't have an SD card reader. So we'll have the transmitter act as an SD card reader, which I think would be better for this tutorial in case you guys don't have an SD card reader. Okay, so now I have a formatted SD card. I'm gonna show you how to do this through the controller itself here. So we're gonna wanna insert it back here, and again, we're gonna take a closer look at the controller once I put it under the bench right now. So there we go, I've inserted it, it should click. I'll show you how to do that later on. And now we're gonna have to bring in the battery. So we're gonna have to boot it up before plugging in the USB. Very important step here. So there you go, we have a battery plugged in, and now I'm gonna go ahead and boot this guy up. Okay, it's on, awesome. So we're gonna get our USB again now, because once we plug in the USB while it's on, it's gonna ask us, do you want us to act as a controller? Or do you want us to be a USB mass storage device? And we're gonna choose USB mass storage device now. Okay, so I could choose saying USB joystick or USB storage. So I'm gonna click USB storage. You should hear the windows click and stuff. All right, so right now I found my first bug, but it just, you know, just unplug and plug back in. When I put USB mass storage, it just got stuck. Ding, 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 ding. Unplugged the USB, plugged it back in. I was totally fine. Now, when you do that, and you click USB mass storage, this is what you have to look for here. So right now I have plenty of hard drives. I do apologize for that. But here we have the Tyrannus O, or I don't know if it'll be an O. The 0 bytes is basically the system. That's not the one you want to go into. You'll see it maybe a USB drive, but just take note of the size of the SD card. Now I know this one is 16 gigs, so it's giving me 14 gigs here. And we're gonna want to install the files here that for the SD card. So the next step is to find the SD card files, and we do that by going back to the software here, and we're clicking the download, and then we say download SD contents, and it'll take us to this page. And now it's a bit tricky. Even I downloaded the wrong one the first time, but it's going to be, well, if you chose the last one, then you should pick up the last one here. See, SD card Tyrannus X9d for some reason. I'm just double checking if this is it again, because yeah, this is going to be it. So I'm just going to download this, and we should see it downloading here. Now, common sense might tell you to decompress it or uncompress it and then throw it into the files here, but that takes too long, because in PCs and in servers, when you're moving a bunch of small files, it takes much longer. So instead of moving just one big file that has all the files inside, so we're gonna move it in one go in this zip file, because it's better. It's just one file that's pretty big. It's 115 megabytes, so you need at least 2 gigs of space. All right, so here's the file. So we're gonna go ahead and grab this that I just downloaded, and we're gonna go put it into the USB drive. which is basically the Tyrannus. Now this will be pretty slow even on fast PCs just because of the bandwidth limitation on this thing, and that's why I'd recommend you. It's not a deal breaker or anything, but if you have an SD card reader, just use that instead. It'll be much better. Okay, so once it completes the move onto the SD card from within the Tyrannus, as you can tell, we still have that page open. Then you're going to want to extract files here, and if you're using Windows, it automatically extracts it. I'm going to use 7-zip here. So you're just going to have to extract the files, but you won't be done yet because you'll need to move the files out. So here we're going to extract it again. And again, it's going to take some time because again, we're not using an SD card reader. And yeah, you're just going to have to wait there for a bit. So we'll come back once that finishes right now. All right, so now we have these two inside the Tyrannus. So it just finished right now. What we want to do is we want to go inside the folder here, take all these, do a Control X to cut them. It's better than copying. You don't want to copy because copy will take another trillion years. You want to cut them out. And now we can erase this, and we can also erase this. And we should be good in that perspective. Now, check this out. Now, when I boot it, well, before you heard it, but we're going to go ahead and disable everything. And I'm turning off the controller right now. Now, when we boot it up, we should also have a sound pack, the default sound pack. So you'll hear it right now once it boots.
Welcome to OpenTX.
That's a good sign. That means you did the SD card part correctly.
Switch warning.
So now we're going to jump up on the bench. We're going to take a closer look at it. And we're also going to enable the Crossfire and also the multi-protocol module so you get an idea of how to use it. All right, so now everything is complete. We're going to go ahead and boot it up because I just disconnected it. So I'm booting it up with a 2S LiPo here. We're going to cover the Crossfire first. So we're going to bring in our Crossfire module. And out of the box, the pins might not be aligned, but if it doesn't go this easy on, then see which one's unaligned and then just realign the inner pins here. Don't push too much, just keep playing with it and don't push on it too hard. It should just fall in just like that. Just slight pressure and click into place. Now let's go ahead and boot this up. Okay, so for some reason I had to reboot the device for the SD card to initialize. So now we want to go again, we want to hold the menu button, then we want to press page, and then we're going to get into this little screen, the SD card here. But I think we want to click again and go into the tools. We want to go down to Crossfire, and then we see here we have the micro Crossfire TX. Click it, and here we can access all of the Crossfire settings here, which is really nice. And let's go ahead and double check this. So in order for you to also activate when you're going to bind, we're going to have to press the menu button once and then pick the model. So for example, we're using model 1, then we're going to click page, and I'm going to scroll backwards. I'm going to scroll that way so I go to the bottom. And we can see here, you have to turn off the internal RF. Usually it would be ACCT D16 or access here. Keep spinning to the left until it says off. Then you can go to the external RF, and this is Crossfire here. Now let's go through everything that is available currently. So I'm going to go all the way to the off part. So we have PPM, the XJT, we have the DSM2, we also have Crossfire. We have the multi-protocol module. This will allow you to connect to all kinds of toys and FlySky and old FrSky radios. You can do anything with this one. And let's see, what else do we have? R9M FCC, also the R9M access, and the normal R9 I think should definitely work on this. And we also have an S-bus output. So we're just gonna go to Crossfire here. Now, and again, there's also another menu here. If we hold the menu button, and you press page, you go to the SDHC card here. Then you want to go to scripts, and then you want to go to tools here. And then this is the Crossfire stuff right there. You click on it, and you have the Crossfire Lua. This is kind of you have to hold on the Crossfire Lua, execute, and or the other way actually works too if you can't find that menu there. But that'll get you into the Crossfire menu here. So that's really nice into that perspective. And if you wanted to do a multi-protocol module, then we're gonna have to do menu and then pick the model you want. For example, let's create a new model. We wanted to do a FlySky model. And then when you get to this page, I'll just press exit. And then I'd go to page again. And now we've created this model. This is where you'd set the name. So we'd call it like FlySky or something. And now what I'm doing is I'm spinning backwards to go to the bottom because everything we need is always on the bottom. So I'm scrolling down. We see here that automatically give us the internal RF as off and the external off. So that's good. We want to keep the internal RF when we're using the multi-protocol module, which would go in the back of this. And I have one on the way. So here we would go next, 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 next. There's the multi-protocol, and here's where you choose what receiver you're going to be connecting to. The multi-protocol modules are pretty insane because they could connect to just about any single toy in the market, which is insane. Also FlySky, FrSky. For example, on D16, I'm flying it on D8 here. This is how I set up D8. But the Betaflight developers supposedly have fixed the D16 on the Crazy Bee boards. I haven't personally tested that yet, but that will be upcoming soon once I receive also a multi-protocol module for this guy before the giveaway. And again, I'm giving this one away to my Patreons now with an open heart because I finally put the things on it that are actually going to be useful. But then again, use the nightly builds at your own risk. And this is really, you know, these are the hoops you have to go through in order to get your controller to work with just about anything. But then you still need a multi-protocol module in order for you to fly the small micros that are running D8. Keep that in mind. And usually they have flight controllers that look like this here. So yeah, just be careful and keep that in mind. And you know, a must-have accessory for this, in my opinion, is the multi-protocol module, and I'll have one linked down below, and I'll have a detailed video on how to actually use these. And now to power it off, we can go ahead and power this guy off. Now it'll still work on D16 XM Plus radios, so that's going to be really great. And we could take a quick look at it here. So we have this little momentary button right here. We have 2 position switch here, 3 here, another 3, another 3. We have a dial, and we have another 3 position switch. This is another 3. This is another 3 position switch and momentary. And we also have some sliders here on both sides, which have a little notch in the middle, so you can actually feel it stop. It stopped right here. This would be the center. I could feel it because it just like digs right there. Both of them do have that here. And let's see these guys here. Yeah, this one does too. And this one, yeah, both of them. The center has a little notch that you could feel. And I still really love the gimbals here. I like that ratcheting. Can you hear it? That's my favorite, because I know how much throttle I'm actually giving extra or not, because I could feel that feedback in it. So overall, it's really great. The screen's really large, actually. I really liked it. More than the Horus X10. And now it's almost a proper radio. It's just, you know, FrSky really needs to just put these things by default. It's a shame that you have to go through hoops in order to do that. But other than that, if this option still stays available, that's going to be great. But you have to be careful every time you update to a nightly build. I don't know how stable this one is, but the one on my X9 Lite is very stable. But this one, I have no idea, because obviously I still haven't tested it. And I'll be testing it in the upcoming days. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want to win this, come join my Patreon. And I also have SkyZone OLEDs this month, so there's a lot of premium giveaways. And also Hollybro is going to start helping with the giveaways also, so huge shout out to them. And well, that's it guys. I'll have links to everything down below. Check them out because those greatly support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.